Hi everyone, my name is Binul Tomjos, and in this video, I will walk you through how I build and deploy two applications using Google Cloud CI/CD pipeline. I will cover how Google Build, Artifact Registry, Docker, Cloud Run, and Kubernetes work together to automate test and deployment. So I basically created two projects. There is one is daily expense tracker using Flask, and then I have created a Java gradebook, student gradebook API, which actually calculates the student's grade as well. So I have written test functions in both of them. That is, in the student gradebook API, I have written grade service test.java, and in the Flask application, I have done test underscore app.py. So I have written the test function in both app, containerized them using Docker, and the images are actually being stored in the Google Artifact registry, which is being built using Google Cloud Build, which I will show it to you soon. So as you can see, if I change this test case, for example, intentionally making it fails, because I can show a screenshot of an intentional test case which actually made the cloud build fail. So if you can see this one, if I run the uh, this thing, you can see the one test case has been being failed. So what actually happens is, when if the test case intentionally fails, like if we make the test case fail, what could happen is when you go into GitHub, because we're integrating the particular thing with GitHub, you can see there is a build summary which actually got failed. The Google Build Cloud was not able to what to say successfully build because of the error in the test case. So what is actually being demonstrated is, as expected, the build failed. This proves that the pipeline stops deployment if tests fail. So that was the main working. So what I was doing is I was using Git. I was coding my thing in my editor and actually pushing it through Git into the GitHub. And if inside the GitHub, I had multiple files. That is, one was the CI/CD pipeline, which actually checked the CI/CD pipeline. That is the GitHub workflow maven.yml file. And the second thing is what actually was there was my cloudbuild.yaml file for both my daily expense as well as the on or student gradebook API. So this both actually help me in actually cloud building, and my .github/workflow/maven.yml file helped me in integration with the CI/CD pipeline. So next thing was actually fixing the test. So when I fix the test, after fixing the test, I'm not going because of the time shortage. As you can see, if I go into this and change into ID test and save it, ID test and save it, and then go into Python test, you can see that 20 test cases has been passed. So what actually happens is, if the test case is able to pass, the next thing is we push the change. We push this change, Google Cloud Build automatically triggers. So I will show it to you what actually trigger means. So inside the web app, we have created two triggers. That is, one is the daily expense trigger, and second thing is the gradebook trigger. So what trigger does is that Google Cloud automatically builds this trigger into the code, and when a test case is actually being passed, a trigger is being enabled if the test case is actually being failed or if it's getting passed. So this is simple working of how we create a trigger. We give it a name, we select the region, we create a description, and we push it into a branch. And then what we do is we connect it with the GitHub repository into the main branch. After creating the main branch, what happens is we give the Google Cloud Build configuration file location, which is actually inside the repo. And this when we save it, we are actually able to get the trigger. So what actually happens is, if there is a build trigger which is actually being failed, we will be able to get it, because the Docker image which is actually being created with the trigger will actually enable us to find like in which step is the trigger being lost. So we got this error, and finally, when all the things after working through the code again, detecting that test case which is actually being failed, when we correct it, we are able to get the final build logic built as successful. So this is how, once the test is passed, the app get deployed. And once the app get deployed, when we go into the cloud run, we'll be able to see the two apps which have actually deployed. That is, one is the expense API and one is the gradebook API. So this is the expense API. So we'll just see how it works. So I just put medicine, and then I put in an expense. So you can see the URL as well as when I add in the expense, we are able to see the financial overview of the total amount spent as well as the average per expense. So if I search groceries, I will be able to filter it out. So it is actually working. So the next thing is the second thing, that is the student gradebook API. We are going to find out if this is working. So we just gave in a student ID number as this one, and we put as max, and then we save the grade as 67. We again put the same student ID number, we put as max, and then we get it. So we should be able to get the uh, average, and we were able to get the average of, so we put in the uh, mark, and we'll be able to get the average of 56. So both of the app has been working successfully. So the deployment plus live demonstration has also been done. Now to explain in detail about the CI/CD pipeline is what I did was I wrote my code in my text editor. I initialized that with Git and pushed my code into the GitHub repo of software testing. And what I did was I went into Google Cloud. And what I could do is I mentioned earlier, I was able to build the trigger. Building the trigger was the next step. And after building in the trigger, I because when we build the trigger, we give the pipeline, the work location. So after building the trigger, what actually happens is if the test case passes, we are able to get three things. One is we are able to get a successful CI/CD pipeline with Maven. And the second thing is we are able to get both the triggers work properly. That is, build was successful. So these are the things which I have implemented and the correct working as well. So to finally conclude, or before concluding, I would like to mention about the challenges and learnings which I've actually faced. So there was issues when I was able deploying because there were all the rules were not being authenticated. So when I put in this particular set in the terminal of allowing for all users, I was actually able to deploy well. So fixing text case logic that blocked builds and configuring ingress class name with and static IP for GKE were main of the challenges which I faced. But I learned how powerful automated pipelines can be. They save time, prevent bugs, and ensure high code quality. So to finally conclude, I was able to do three things. That is, I was able to write meaningful test cases. Second thing is Google Cloud and Artifact Registry was used to automate deployment, and choose Google Cloud Run for lightweight services as well. So these three things were the ones which I was able to do. And this actually incorporates what I have done for this HD task. Thanks for watching. The source code along with the complete report has been put into OnTrack. Thank you.